Welcome to Tech Alley, the first one of the year. Show of hands, how many are new to the UX Meetup group? Welcome. And anyone who is a second or third timer? Okay, so new faces, that's awesome. Just to introduce myself, my name is Abegail Otero. I lead this Meetup group. And for those of you who don't know what user experience design is, the short spiel is making things user-friendly or easy to use. It's not just about screens, it's also about wayfinding or products, physical, tangible things. And through this Meetup group, we hope to help people who are either founders or have projects on their own, thinking about how to implement design principles into the things that they're building, answer any questions that you might have on things that you're building, as well as cater to those who are designers in the community. This group is usually at Tech Alley. We do things that are more surface level, that are approachable for those who are beginners. And we have sessions that happen outside of Tech Alley that go a little bit more deeper if you want to get hands-on, let's say in Figma, or you have a project that you want to work on and need some advice or help on. Look out for those kind of events to dive deeper into maybe a workshop. Hey guys, thanks for rolling with the punches. My name is Abigail and welcome to the Las Vegas UX group. I'm on the second slide of Meet the Team. And I'm not the only one who runs this Meetup group. I also have JB here, who's walking up the stairs. Gerardo's here, wave your hand. And then we also have Olga, who isn't here today, but I'm super grateful for this team. They've helped me put on some amazing events, and I couldn't do it without having people behind me. And I do want to give a special shout out to Gerardo here. Have you ever had one of those friendships where you're like, dang, that was great, and that was too soon for them to leave? Gerardo has been with us since June of last year, and we met because I was looking for help on organizing more events, and he came through to one of our planning meetings. But ever since then, he's been such a core team member, helping us to think of events to do, and even presented a really fantastic presentation on storytelling. And he's helped me personally become the senior designer that I am today by giving me feedback on my portfolio, by literally recommending me to jobs. So I just want to give him a shout out and a round of applause. Thank you for your help. And the next slide is that we are looking for more help because there was a lot of team members that had to leave. But for those of you who are new to tech, or maybe you're new in design, or just want to practice your presentation skills, just hit me up after or on LinkedIn if you have an idea of an idea that you want to share and talk more about, or if you want to help with planning events for this community, definitely reach out to me. So the next slide is the orange slide, and it just shows that we have a lot of fun. We do events, like I mentioned earlier, we do events specifically for designers who want to get more deeper into their design thinking skills. We do workshops on Figma. We've done one really cool event called Roast and Tell, where we picked an app and we roasted it and then we made it better. So great opportunity to meet fellow designers and get help on things that you're working on. All right, we're finally getting to the presentation. A little bit of background. This presentation is called How I UX'd Our Business, turning expertise into a product and then building the systems to support it. So for today's agenda, I'm going to give you background about myself, designing the product, and then a little bit about the sales and marketing of it, and establishing systems. You can hold your questions till the end. I don't think it's that long of a presentation, but for the sake of time, I'll try to breeze through this. So for some background about myself, I have teaching background, print production. I've been a designer for 10 years, but my career hasn't always been linear. And I hope that you can see how my background in teaching and all these other things kind of led to how we were able to start our own business. And I want to encourage those who are maybe earlier in their career or transitioning that don't think that your experience is wasted or you're not able to connect it, because I promise that there's going to be a lot of skills that you have throughout your career or even education that will translate into the things that you're going to do moving forward. So just an encouragement there. Last year I was working, or 2 years ago, I was working for a company called OmniCell, which is a health tech product, working on their hardware and software. And essentially, long story short, I worked on this thing to help nurses get their medications from a cabinet for the right patient in the right dosage at the right time. And I quit that position. I wasn't growing in my career. I tried to get a promotion, but we went through reorgs, as well as I had a new manager. And Justin and I just recently got married. So I was like, I think now's the time for us to, if there was any time to try to start something, now's the time to try. And the next slide we're on is the one with all of the metrics and a screen with Justin. Is everybody on that screen? This is so weird for me, different. The slide has 221 increase in total compensation on it. I'll wait till I get a thumbs up so I can slow down. Cool, we're going. So yeah, we started a coaching business called Value Driven Careers. And on this slide, you'll see a lot of different metrics of what we were able to accomplish. So we started our program, we did webinars, we hosted in-person events like this, we coached people one-on-one, we posted on YouTube, and got followers on LinkedIn. But what I really want to pay attention to here is that for the clients that we were able to help, we helped them increase their compensation by a combined 221K. And if you ask me, that's a lot to be able to help people. That's like literally impacting lives for people who either transitioned into a new role or we helped them negotiate for more of their salary. So the next slide is Justin and I. A little bit of background of how this idea came about. Justin here, raise your hand. That's my husband. He's an engineer. He's great. And he's also very entrepreneurial. And he was like, babe, I have this idea. And I was like, what is it? He's like, I want to work with you on a business. I think that we would be great together. And initially had this business for real estate photography. And I was like, dude, I'm not trying to help you. I don't like social media. I don't want to learn something new. So why can't we just use the skills that we already have as a designer and engineer and build off of the skills that we already have? And so that's how we came up with the idea of career coaching. Justin said, you know, I have a lot of documentation. I coach and help engineers grow in their careers already. So why don't we just build off of those skills? So how did we turn his expertise from documentation and loose ideas into a structure of a program and a product that we can sell? So the next slide is the core problem. Justin had a lot of proven expertise, but the problem was that we didn't have frameworks or a system or predictable outcomes. So what we were working on wasn't yet explainable, repeatable, or scalable. And for success criteria, what we knew we wanted was a product that we could sell with systems around it so that it would support like what we were doing. So we wanted something that we can run outside of our W-2s without having to compromise our marriage or time or things that really matter to us. So keep in mind that we were building this business while Justin was still in his W-2. So what success really looked like for us is proven repeatable frameworks with a system to reduce manual efforts and eventually have something that can scale outside of Justin and I. So maybe hire other coaches in the future. Next, I want to talk about constraints and roles and responsibilities before I dive into talking about how we actually build the product. So some constraints, keep in mind this is 0 to 1. We had no existing design system, no style guide, nothing that really existed. We were just creating from scratch. How many of us out here are founders again? And how many of us know that the first year is just trying to figure out what the heck you're trying to do? That's what that was. And for roles and responsibilities, Justin was, the face that everybody saw. And he's the one who was coaching, and I was doing everything on the back end. So anything that had to deal with visual design or creating systems or operations is all the things that I focused on last year. Man, any questions before I get into defining the product? I also need time to breathe. Let's get in. What's that? I hope I'm projecting loud enough. Do I need a mic? Okay, that's good enough. I'm not projecting too loudly. It's just the lights are like making it hot. Let's get into defining the product. So first is defining the offer. And in the business world or entrepreneurship, your offer is what's your promise or what's the transformation that you're selling your clients. And for us who are in the product space, that's more so your product requirements. So what do your users need or what are the jobs to be done? So what that looked like, I'm on Step 1, extracting the expertise. Basic UX research where we, observed coaching calls, found the pain points, identified patterns, and then created personas of our ideal clients. And then we identified the transformation that these clients are looking for. So defining what's point A and then what's point B. Where are the clients right now and what is their ultimate outcome? And then the third part is defining the offer. So what's the bridge to get users from point A to point B? The offer is the transformation or the product that you're selling them to get them from point A to point B. And that looks like defining who it's for, the problem that you're solving, and ultimately what's the promise that you're promising them, or what are they going to get in exchange for the money that they're giving you. So the next slide is our first iteration, or maybe many iterations later, of our landing page. And it's just positioning of, hey, if you're looking for fulfillment in your career or you want to get promoted at work, Justin's your guy. And this is kind of the messaging that we used throughout our social media. All right, getting into actually defining the product now. So now that we have something, we have the offer, we know how we're positioning it. Now we actually have to build the thing that we're selling. And this is what it looks like, creating the career growth framework. So I'm on the slide that has different Excel sheets. And for this, I just looked at the Excel sheets. Justin's really organized. He has a lot of documentation and he's very thorough. But as a UX designer, as someone who's in marketing, I look at this and I'm like, what am I looking at? How do I understand what this program is supposed to be? Why doesn't this module come before that one? And essentially I'm asking, how do we market this? So if I can't understand what you're trying to explain to me, how can we sell this to someone else? So the next slide you'll see is a white guy with a blue background. Do you guys see that? Does anybody know who this person is? You could shout it out loud if you know. Dave Ramsey. Yes, it's Dave Ramsey. Does anybody know what Dave Ramsey coaches on?
Debt.
Yes, debt and finance. What is his trademark signature thing that he coaches? That's interesting that no one knows. Well, the next slide is the baby steps. So Dave Ramsey is a debt and finance coach. He has had this podcast, radio show for at least 30 years, and he always teaches the baby steps. I'm not going to read 1 through 7. It's essentially like, these are the things that you need to do if you want to get debt free. And what's great about Dave's philosophy, the market has changed. He probably has different opinions on how to become debt free, but this is the thing that he teaches. This is his bread and butter. And this is what I want people to think when they think value-driven careers. Oh, if I'm trying to grow in my career, here are like 3 easy steps that I can do to learn how to grow and excel in my career. I wanted something that was going to be marketable and easy to understand. That way, the user feels like, oh, I can accomplish this, and it's not going to take that much effort. You guys with me so far? So the next slide, I'm kind of going to jump into take ownership, serve others, and multiply. So for us at Value Driven Careers, our framework for growth is take ownership, serve others, and multiply. What that means is taking ownership means being a top performer. And how do you do that? You first have to have a growth mindset. And then you got to be able to manage the things that you can control, your time as well as your communication. This looks like managing your time without burning out, and then having good communication skills so that you can ask the right questions as well as get buy-in from your stakeholders. The next step to career growth, once you're able to manage your time well, once you communicate, learn how to communicate, you then shift your focus to serving others. So what does that look like? It means being a team player. You can't grow in your career if you're just focused on yourself all the time. You have to shift your mentality to thinking, how can I help make other people better around me? And that looks like building relationships. So how do you have a good relationship with your manager, your teammates? How do you manage conflicts or disagreements? And then contributing beyond your role. So help other people. And that can be either mentoring other junior designers or engineers on your team, or maybe helping people who are onboarding into your company get acclimated. Or maybe it looks like creating documentation so that people can follow along, and that documentation can live outside of you, beyond your role, once you leave the company. And the last part is multiplying. So be an example to other people around you by building your reputation and increasing your performance. And so the next slide, you'll see some arrows. And this represents, this framework is meant to be sequential in order. They build on top of one another. So if you want to be an example, well, you're first going to have good relationships with people at work, and you're going to have to contribute beyond your role. If you want to be able to contribute beyond your role, well, you're going to have to manage your time effectively. So you can start to see how these things start to build on top of one another. Any questions before I move on? Is there a question? Okay. And that's how we built the Software Engineer Growth Program. So the takeaway from that first section is that people want fast and easy, or at least the perception of doing things fast and easy. And if I just showed you the Excel sheet with all of the different modules, hey, welcome in. Justin, can you get them set up? If I just showed you those Excel sheets, you would be overwhelmed with what you had to do if you wanted that promotion. But if I showed you the framework or something like the baby steps, you could be like, okay, all I gotta do is step 1, step 2, and step 3. So psychologically, people are just wanting to move fast and easy. Even if it takes a little bit longer or things are a little bit more complicated, at least when you're trying to sell them something, make it seem so easy so that they can apply the thing that you're learning or that they're learning and then get those quick results. At least that's what I've learned so far. Moving on, I don't know if it sent the skipped slides, but I'm moving on to the blue slide that says build the product. So now that we know what we're selling, which is a framework of how to grow in your career, we're going to build the thing, and that thing for us looks like a program. And the next slide is design isn't just, and you'll see a screen there. So for us as a designer, you typically think that, okay, you're designing screens, you're designing buttons, components, and you're making things that are user-friendly. But design is just more than things that you see on a screen. The screenshot that you see here is the platform Go high level. And what you can see is like the videos that we produced, as well as a little bit of content about that video. That doesn't really change. There's limited customization. And for the most part, the application that we used is pretty user-friendly, and it's an out-of-the-box solution. But what we had to think as design thinkers or curriculum writers is, well, how can we use the shell of a thing to promote our framework in a way that's easily digestible? So design isn't just, screens and pixel pushing and buttons, but it's also your branding, it's also instructional design, and it's also presentational design. So branding, users are looking for a consistent experience from the time that you see an ad on Instagram to the time that you're in the program. The messaging and the visuals are going to be really important for solidifying your message. And instructional design, for us, it means understanding pedagogy, or the way that we teach, and understanding that balancing the needs of different learning types. So for example, some people will follow along with slides and they can learn easily just by watching a presentation. Other people learn better by reading instructions verbatim. So we needed to think about that as we were designing our program, or each of the lessons that we had. And finally, presentational design is, how do you present information in a way that's engaging, but also doesn't overwhelm your audience? So thinking of progressive disclosure, or how you display information. Even the way that I design my slides here, as I'm sharing with you, I have to think about how can I engage the audience enough where you can follow along without overstimulating you. So the results from our program, we had 4 students. 2 of those students got new roles, and then 1 person got a promotion. And during this time, Justin also got a promotion at work. So it kind of goes to show that the program itself was actually working. People were finding results from taking our program. And the takeaway here is that designing a product is the easy part of building a business, but the challenging part is actually figuring out marketing and sales. Anybody resonate with that? Yes. Okay, the next session is making it discoverable. So the next slide is mapping the earliest user journey. This is the typical way that people would find us. They would go on social media, maybe they see Justin's LinkedIn profile, they click a button that says get free coaching. Justin then, talks to them, helps them with their issues, then pitches them the program. They join the program and they would graduate. But realistically, we had a hard time with this model and didn't really see conversions. So moving on to what the problem was, there's probably a few things that resonated for why we weren't able to get people to convert. The price was a little high, and the program was really long, 6 months. Maybe it was unclear of what they would be able to accomplish once they finished our program. And then ultimately, one-on-ones weren't scalable. So Justin was working his W-2 on top of filming content, on top of, other stuff in life. So he just didn't have a lot of time to do one-on-ones. And it was really extensive on the mental load of having to help people one-on-one. So the way that we pivoted is, first of all, changing the program length from 6 months to 7 weeks. and then changing the platform that we were on, and thirdly, changing the price. So I just want to double down on the platform. Originally, we were on this platform called Go High Level, which, if you've never heard of it, it's a one-stop shop where you can control your CRM, your social media management, your email marketing, hosting your actual program on there, as well as doing your landing pages. And because we were on that platform, it relied on us to advertise ourselves rather than being on Maven, which is, show of hands, how many people know of Maven, the platform? So Maven is similar to Coursera or other platforms that have courses built online where you can just see the marketplace of creators, and then you can filter through to see different skills that you're trying to learn. And then Maven is specifically for engineers, founders, designers, PMs, people who are in tech looking to learn new skills or advance in their career. And being on this platform now helped us because, well, if you see this guy named Ethan Evans, he's on this platform, he's well known in software, I guess. Well, if Ethan coaches on this platform and I see Justin, then Justin must be credible for what he teaches because I also see this other reputable guy on the same platform. So it just helped us to gain more trust with our audience. And then the last big thing that we pivoted was going from one-on-one calls to hosting webinars or selling one-to-many. And with the title, that entails that instead of just having one person that we talk to for 30 minutes, we say, hey, come to this webinar, you'll learn about a specific topic, and then we can help you that way. So you can see the before and after. Before, you see Justin online, you book a call, and then he sells you this offer. But the after is you see Justin online. Now you are learning about a focused topic. You hear him teach firsthand and you get that free experience. And then after you learn from his experience, you can say, oh, he's pretty knowledgeable. I could probably join his program, and that's probably going to get me to wherever I'm trying to go. So you can make a decision with less confusion and risk. And the results of that pivoting to webinars, we had a whole bunch more people sign up. We actually got a sale that time. And from the people we were able to help just in our webinars alone, we were able to help people negotiate for a larger salary or like get a new role, and they increased their total, their compensation. I think we helped like 2 or 3 people increase their total comp to a combined total of 31K. So the takeaway here is speed to ROI. As I mentioned earlier, people want things fast and easy. And so if we're trying to sell them something, how can we get them quick wins so they feel like they can trust you to get to where they're trying to go? And the second biggest takeaway for me is testing the market fit before actually building the product. I think if we learned earlier, if the program that we're trying to pitch is something that people actually want to buy, we wouldn't have to have spent so much time actually building. Okay. Any questions? Please ask a question. Over here. Sure. No, so they were free, and that's because we want people to taste and see how we're able to coach our coaching style to see if Justin is the right fit for them. And then from there, we can give them a sale. So the ultimate goal is to give them a taste of what they can experience. And for those of you who are founders or business owners, the mentality should be, I have so much depth of my knowledge that I'm not afraid to give things away for free. That's just a little caveat. Any other questions? Yeah.
Pulls it back to the start. One of the things that you talked about was maintaining your own boundaries within your relationship with them. Did you guys have any measurable things to make sure you weren't overstepping those boundaries?
Can you give me a more concrete example?
Did you guys say okay, we have date night every this, or
yeah.
we have to spend so many times,
Sure.
so many hours watching movies together
Yeah.
that makes it, okay, we are not overstepping our boundaries.
Yeah, great question. It's really important to establish boundaries and set expectations, and you prioritize what matters to you, right? So if our relationship comes first before the business, then we had to intentionally say, okay, Wednesday is our date nights and we can't talk about the business. And so many times it bleeds over because like that's the thing that's top of mind. And then another thing that we did was do stand-ups every morning. And for our stand-ups, we would talk like, hey, let's start off with our roses and thorns. So what are 3 things that were good that came out of this week or yesterday? And then just one thing to talk about the thorn or the thing that's been like annoying you. And I think it's healthy to like acknowledge the things that are hard and sucky, but still give more priority to the things that are actually going right. And then for stand-up, once we did our roses and thorns, we can say, hey, what are we trying to accomplish today? So I think that's like a great caveat for those of you in relationships who are also business partners is let's just have a check-in every day. Great question. Any others? Okay. Last leg, guys. The building the systems to support our business. So earlier you saw the framework for career growth. Now I'm going to show you the social media strategy as well as the webinar funnel. So before you saw this take ownership, serve others, and multiply. And this framework also doubled as our content pillars. So each video that we made could be centered towards this specific topic of mindset, time management, or communication. And the next slide, you'll see kind of a chart, a flow chart, I guess you can call it, where we would take a long form piece of content, which either was a recording of the webinar that we hosted, or we would just make a video for YouTube. And then from there, we can chop down those pieces of content into smaller pieces of content, short form, whether it's text posts, carousels, lead magnets, which are things that people can download, or write articles. So same topic, but just reused or repurposed for different things. And the next slide you can see as an example, our webinar was on how to ask for a promotion. And from that long form piece of content, we were able to create different posts for LinkedIn and Instagram. And then the next slide, you can see some metrics. There's 3 screenshots of Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And what we did as content creators, we would post a whole bunch on social media and then look at the data to see, hey, what's resonating with our audience? What type of content are they consuming? And then what topics are they interested in? So for YouTube, the top right video, or the top performing video was on promotions versus all the other topics that we posted about. So it's like, okay, our audience cares about how to get a promotion. Well, let's do a webinar on that specific thing then, since we can double down on what's working already. And that's the takeaway, is to reuse content so that you're reducing the workload and also letting the data show you what's actually working. The last thing that I want to share is our webinar funnel. So the next slide you'll see is just this workflow in blue. There's 2 paths really. It's either the paid ads route or the organic content and how people find our webinars. And what that looks like is on the next slide, step 1, you see an ad. Step 2, you see the landing page. Step 3, you see the calendar and you book. Step 4, you join the webinar. And then during the webinar in step 5 is when we actually give you the offer. So what we had to do and where we spent 80% of our time in the business was actually optimizing these funnels and figuring out how do we get people through each step. How do we like plug the holes that are leaking in our funnel? So the first thing that we need to do is test our offers and its messaging. So the slide is tests on step 1, and there's like 4 different ads that look the same but are actually different. So I had this hunch based on all of the ads that I was running and what performed in the past of people care about things that are free versus Justin had this theory of, well, why don't we just sell them the program and just give them a steep discount of 40%? And, instead of going back and forth of like arguing, why do I think this works versus why do he thinks it works? It's like, well, let's just freaking do a test on it, right? And when we ran tests on Instagram Meta Business, we can see, okay, which offer is going to land better. And the next slide, you can see a screenshot of Meta, and the TLDR is, my inkling was right that people care more about something that's free because it's low stakes than trying to sell them something that they've probably never heard of before. And you see more data. So yeah, the takeaway is that cold audiences prefer things that are free or low stakes. And that doesn't mean that we wouldn't run the 40% Black Friday ad. It just means that we need to warm up those audiences first by offering them something free. And then once they do see our value, we can probably hit them with that ad again. If they don't purchase from the webinar, we can hit them later with the same ad to retarget them with a discount. And I think the last part is landing page optimization. So landing pages are super important to getting people into your webinar or purchasing the thing that you're selling them. And what I learned is how to optimize. I think from a designer's perspective, learning that like how fast can you help the user complete the task that you're trying to get them to do. So in this case, how fast can we help them sign up for the webinar? On the left, you see there's two screenshots. On the left, you see the first landing page, and then on the right, you see an image. I wonder how this looks on the phone, of our optimized page. So on the left, the first thing is that we had a navigation bar. And when you, like, let's say that you clicked on an ad and now you're on our landing page, the navigation had this menu where you could see all the other things on our website. And that's a no-go, because now that people hit our landing page, they can say, oh, I wonder what else Justin has. Oh, he has free resources. Oh, I can learn more about his program. So immediately people can, click away from the page and not even like go to the webinar. The second thing that we changed was adding in a form. So there's a screenshot on the right with a form, and that's capturing your lead's information. And it's really important to capture your information, because let's say that they didn't complete the task. Well, once you capture their name and their email, I can email them later, or I can promote future webinars. So that's something that we learned, is like it's really important to capture people's information so that they're already in our ecosystem and we don't have to continue to like sell ads. Now we have a pool of candidates that we can target and hit their inbox. And the last thing that we did when optimizing our landing pages was pay attention to the copy. So I learned, even for us designers, when we're writing our portfolios, people are realistically looking at the images first, and they're maybe skimming the headlines in our portfolio. So you really have to optimize what you're writing in your headers and subheaders. So the last example here is the first landing page. We just had sign up for the free AI productivity masterclass. And this was geared towards engineers, but we actually had PMs who attended. And I think it's because we weren't clear with who our audience was for this particular webinar. And what we changed, so it's the second time how we optimized it, now you have LinkedIn profile optimization masterclass for software engineers. So the tweak is we're telling them what the thing is and who it's for. And then in the subtext, it says, turn your profile into a magnet for job opportunities. So if you read the copy in there, you can just see how the nuances can help users understand, hey, this is what I'm going to learn. This is who it's for. These are the outcomes that I can expect if I join this class. So being super clear and direct rather than trying to be witty with your copy. So yeah, the takeaway is try to reduce friction, capture your leads, and optimize your headlines. I think I'm going to stop there, to be honest. That was a lot. I don't know how much of the PDF downloaded and what slides you're still able to see, but I'm jumping down to outcomes and impact to kind of like sum this all up. So it's going back to that slide of all of the different statistics of what we were able to accomplish. So with this whole presentation, you can see what exactly went into trying to figure out our first year of business. There was a lot of output. There's a lot of things that we had to figure out and finesse. And keep in mind, that's while Justin had his W-2, while we were coming up with event ideas for Tech Alley, volunteering at church, and just having life outside of this. And it's super doable to be able to have a project once you have systems in place. And I think that's what I want to encourage you guys with is it's not that you have too much to do, it's just how are we optimizing our time? We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but how can we use it effectively? And I think the answer is finding ways to create systems so that you're reducing your mental load and you're doing things that can be repeated, whether that looks like, wearing the same black attire so you don't have to think about what you're gonna wear, or meal prepping and just thinking about what you're going to eat so that you don't have to think about that every single day. All right. I hope that was fun and educational for you guys. My name is Abigail. On the last slide, there's information if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. And yeah, I'll open the floor for more questions.
Another one. When you guys would host, like, say, your free webinar, I noticed you got a lot of hits. So if you had people that actually signed up, how many people would actually attend?
Yeah.
Do you have like a rough number?
So that's a good question. So before we hosted on Maven, we just hosted through Go High Level, or we would have like Zoom sessions. And we averaged like 30 people signing up, but then people who would attend would be less than half. And then for Maven, even though it was a great platform, what was crazy is that we had like 180 signups and only 7 people attended. So I don't know. It was our first time on this platform. My suspicion is that people sign up for this thing, but because there's other content creators on that platform, they're signing up for everybody else's thing too. So they're probably anticipating to watch it on their own time, the recording, as opposed to being like online live. Yeah, people just.
So the recordings, the streams.
Yeah.
Because I guess the other ones are free too.
Yes, especially for the platform, the lightning lessons are free. So it's like, I'm just going to sign up for everything because everything sounds relevant.
Is there any lessons from that you guys would like to share, just from not feeling like drained, like, oh, you expected 30 people and X people showed, this is just you guys would keep running?
Yeah, good question. Justin, you could answer.
I think something that was like really unique about what she was doing with all of our content was people are seeing your stuff and they're not interacting. Okay, that's a very common thing that you have to get past. And somebody reached out to us for coaching who found me through ChatGPT. He was doing deep research and he found all of our content because like really good copyright. And I think every time we would go through a webinar, you see all the signups and you're excited because you expect a bunch of people. And then when you're there and it's at the beginning and there's 5 people, you're like, we're just gonna wait for a minute for people to join. But you have to just go through it as if there's a ton of people, right? So you see like some of the engagement that she'll do where like Abigail's here saying like, hey, like raise your hand if you're this. Really going through those motions and just trying to separate yourself from like the audience and knowing that this is still recorded content that someone's gonna have to watch and you still have to be engaging and entertaining and just deliver, right? So yeah, emotionally, super hard. But knowing that this content is going to live in perpetuity That's the important part, because it may not help someone right there in that moment, but someone will see it in the future, and it will help them then.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, I think like Justin rehearsed and perfected his performance. So by the time that we actually recorded, I was able to use that recording as our evergreen content on YouTube. And I think something that we learned from being content creators is that people notice, at least in person, like, oh, we've seen, the post that you're doing and it's great. So building your personal brand online is super key, right? Like if you're trying to try to get a new job or put yourself out there, well, people are going to look at your profile and see what you're putting out there. So there's this perception of, wow, Justin's really great at coaching. He's knowledgeable about this specific topic. So I really encourage people, like if you're in the market or if you're trying to put yourself out there, then have a brand presence, because that's what people are going to see first, especially in a digital world before, networking in person as question.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about starting my business. Kind of geared towards what you guys started with, but also I'm a software engineer, so I come from that, and so like all of it kind of resonated. But more so on like the metrics side, because we talked about like how much money you earned and how many engineers got promotions. But how did you track it over like the multi-system? Like you're using Maven and then you're using like LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And you tested on, I think you said Meta and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
how do you bring it all into one like visual, I guess?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of different metrics that we need to track, right? So I could speak for myself and the things that I was tracking because of my role as a marketer, as a designer. So I was paying attention to the metrics on Meta to see what kind of copy resonates, what kind of ads resonates, what kind of content that people resonate with. So I'm constantly looking at like the ads and what is performing well, so I can replicate that. Or for our content on YouTube, I'll look at that kind of data to see like, okay, I had ideas, but the data is telling me that this is what resonates with our audience. And then as far as metrics for like, let's say clients, and I don't know, Justin, do you have an answer for that?
I think all of us will fall into the trap as builders, designers, whichever, of wanting to be busy. And so that mindset of like, how do I consolidate all of this data? Do it manually. Because I spend more time trying to work on automation and getting like a ton of stuff to just do it automatically. Why? Because that's the engineer in me.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I probably should have put out like maybe some more social media content, because that's the top of the funnel, right? We need people seeing our content to take the next step, right? So I think you can just like be careful about really where you spend your time, because there are some things that are actually going to move your business forward, and you can worry about like the systems later when they actually are going to matter, right? When you have the volume and like it really is important. And I was so grateful to have Abigail where I could defer things to her. And so like, as you grow and scale, maybe you don't need to worry about all the analytics, like that's someone else's job, right? So just, like I would say be really mindful about where you're spending your time, because you can want to be busy. You can work on the design, the logos, that's the fun part, right? That's not the thing that's going to convert someone.
And then I have one more answer for that, but I want to turn it to the other business owners and founders in the room. Question was, how do you know what metrics to track? Do you guys want to answer?
I mean, for me, it's GA4, right? I'm heavily into that. The traffic overall, where is it coming from? Who can I retarget that way? Yeah, it's definitely my version.
Anything else? GA4, explain like I'm 5.
Google Analytics?
Oh,
Yeah.
clearly I don't use that. Any other answers from other founders in the room? Metrics to track. The last thing I'll share on that piece of metrics is think about like what kind of metrics actually matter, right? Like, do we care about the vanity metrics of how many likes or impressions this thing got? For us, we were really bummed because truthfully, we didn't see a lot of monetary value from the business. It really hurt emotionally to see like, dang, we're putting so much effort, but we're not seeing any financial gains. But when I take a step back and look at how many people we actually helped from that perspective, it's like, I can't compete with that compared to the financial gain. A story is, if you guys don't know who Gabriel Burgos is, he used to run the Sin City Programmers Meetup, and he worked for Joshua Stacy, and he was one of the people that we coached. And he joined our program, and he was a really great student and was able to get his first time role as a software engineer on a team and moved to the East Coast. So that's where he is now. And, we met up with him for Thanksgiving this year, and he talked to us and was like, thanks for changing my life. Like, literally, I wouldn't know what to do with, my career until I joined your program. So, I just have to remember that initially it's going to be sweat equity, and the metrics to measure are, are we actually helping people? So people over profits, and eventually the money will come. All right. Any other questions? Cool. We're chilling here until the next session starts, but thanks for joining us.